Why is AI bias a real concern? Artificial intelligence is transforming industries, automating workflows, recommending content, approving loans, scanning resumes, even assisting in courtroom decisions. But beneath the sleek technology lies a growing concern: bias. Yes, AI systems can be biased, and not just slightly. In some cases, dangerously so. But why does this happen? And more importantly, why should you care? Let's break it down. AI is not magic. It's math. It learns patterns from data. It doesn't think like a human. It calculates probabilities, associations, and correlations. So where does bias come in? It starts with the data. AI is only as good as the data it's trained on, and that data, whether scraped from the internet, gathered from users, or pulled from historical records, often reflects societal inequalities. If a hiring AI is trained on past and job applications, and those past decisions favored men over women, it will learn that pattern and continue it. If a facial recognition system is trained mostly on light-skinned faces, it will perform worse on darker-skinned ones. If a language model is trained on biased online content, it can replicate and amplify stereotypes in its responses. This isn't hypothetical, it's already happened. Amazon famously scrapped its internal hiring algorithm after it showed bias against women. A 2018 study found facial recognition systems had error rates of 0.8% for white men, but up to 34.7% for dark-skinned women. And language models? They've been caught generating toxic, racist, and sexist content, all because the internet they were trained on reflects those realities. So no, AI bias isn't just a bug. It's a mirror, a reflection of the world we've built, and the data we feed our machines. And that's why it matters, because we're increasingly using AI in high-stakes decisions. Hiring, healthcare, policing, finance, education. If bias goes unchecked, AI won't level the playing field. It will harden inequality. Here's another layer: bias in the algorithms themselves. Even with clean data, how a model is built, optimized, and deployed can introduce bias. Developers make choices: what to prioritize, how to weight inputs, what to suppress. Those choices carry assumptions, and often the people building these systems don't reflect the diversity of the people affected by them. Representation matters, because what you don't see, you don't solve. And when the development teams are homogeneous, blind spots grow wider. So what can we do? First, awareness. Understanding that AI bias is real, not theoretical, is the first step. Second, better data. Curate balanced data sets. Actively correct for historical inequalities. This isn't easy, but it's essential. Third, transparency. Companies must open the black box, publish model audits, share where systems struggle. Let regulators and the public examine risks. Fourth, accountability. Just like any powerful tool, AI needs guardrails. Laws, ethics boards, external review. Self-regulation is not enough. Fifth, inclusion. Bring in diverse voices. In research, in testing, in deployment. The people affected by AI must help shape it. Bias doesn't fix itself. It grows in silence and shrinks under scrutiny. And here's the biggest reason AI bias is a real concern: scale. When a human is biased, they affect a few people. When an AI system is biased and deployed globally, it can affect millions. instantly and invisibly. Bias becomes industrialized, and that makes it even harder to detect and correct. We've already seen this with credit scoring, resume screening, even judicial risk assessments. Algorithms flagged people as high risk without clear explanations and with real consequences. This erodes trust because fairness isn't just a feature, it's the foundation. We don't just need AI that works, we need AI that works fairly. And if we don't build that now, we'll spend years trying to undo the damage. The good news? AI bias is solvable. We can build systems that are more inclusive, more transparent, more just. But it takes intention, not just from engineers, but from leaders, policymakers, educators, and citizens. If you use AI, you're part of this story. Ask hard questions, push for clarity, demand fairness, not just accuracy. Because AI bias isn't someone else's problem, it's everyone's future. And what we tolerate today becomes the infrastructure of tomorrow. So let's build wisely. Let's build justly. Let's build AI we can trust. Because trust doesn't come from speed, it comes from integrity. And the future deserves nothing less. Let's take this even further. Bias in AI doesn't only impact marginalized individuals, it impacts businesses, governments, and global innovation. When AI fails due to bias, it doesn't just produce unfair outcomes. It erodes credibility. It opens legal risk. It slows adoption. In fact, some companies now face lawsuits and regulatory scrutiny, not for using AI, but for using it irresponsibly. That's why ethics isn't just a checkbox. It's a competitive edge. If your AI can't be trusted, your product can't scale, your brand won't last, and your customers will walk. So here's what leading organizations are doing. 1. Bias audits. Independent evaluations of algorithmic performance across demographic groups. 2. Fairness metrics. Tracking equity, not just accuracy. 3. Explainability tools. So, designing AI models that show how and why decisions are made. 4. Red teams. Internal teams trained to stress test AI for ethical and security failures. 5. Ethical review boards. Diverse groups tasked with reviewing high-impact AI deployments. But this isn't just about tech companies. It's about you, the user, the creator, the citizen. Every time you use an AI system, you're feeding it data. Every time you rely on the AI for decision-making, you're trusting its judgment. So make that trust intentional. Don't outsource your ethics to an algorithm. Whether you're a startup founder, a developer, a policymaker, or just someone trying to navigate this new world, bias in AI is your concern. And here's one last thing. If we get this wrong, if we let bias run unchecked, we don't just replicate inequality, we encode it, we embed it into the very systems that shape our future. Education, justice, healthcare, opportunity, that's why we can't afford to look away. The bias in AI is not just technical, it's cultural, it's historical, it's systemic. But we can change the system, not overnight, but through conscious choices, smarter data, transparent design, stronger oversight, and most of all, human leadership. Because while AI is powerful, it's still a tool, and tools reflect the hands that build them. So the real question is not just, can AI be fair? The question is, can we? And the answer starts with what we choose to build today. Let's make it better. Let's make it fair. Let's make it human. Because if we don't, the consequences won't be abstract. They'll be personal. A student denied a scholarship because an algorithm misread their potential. A patient misdiagnosed because the AI wasn't trained on diverse clinical data. A job candidate overlooked because the system didn't understand non-traditional resumes. Bias is not just offensive, it's expensive. It costs people opportunities. It costs companies innovation. It costs society trust. So as AI continues to evolve, our responsibility must grow with it. We need standards. We need education. We need leadership that doesn't just talk about fairness, but funds it, audits it, and delivers it. We need creators who don't just build what's possible, but what's ethical. And we need users, millions of them, who don't just accept AI outcomes as neutral truth, but challenge them, question them, improve them. Bias may be a reflection of the past, but fairness is a blueprint for the future. And that future, it's still ours to shape, with code, with law, with conscience. Because when we build AI that respects everyone, we build a world that includes everyone. And that is a future worth working for. Now is the time to decide. Will we automate inequality, or will we architect equity? The code is still being written. Let's write it well. So where do we go from here? First, we start telling the truth about AI. Not as something perfect, but as something in progress. Second, we invest in AI literacy. In schools, in workplaces, in governments. Because if AI is going to touch everything, then everyone deserves to understand it. Third, we create feedback loops. Let people contest algorithmic decisions, build systems that learn not just from data, but from dialogue. Fourth, we amplify underrepresented voices in AI, not just as test subjects, but as builders, researchers, and policy shapers. Because equity doesn't happen by accident. It happens by design. And lastly, don't underestimate your role. Every prompt you write, every data set you choose, every decision you automate, it matters. You don't need to be a computer scientist to shape the future of AI. You just need to be aware, responsible, courageous, because AI isn't just a tool, it's a mirror, a magnifier, and a multiplier. And what it reflects back depends on us. Let's not build systems that are only smart. Let's build systems that are wise, because that's what the next generation is counting on. And if we do it right, AI won't just change the world. It will help us change it for the better.